Welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Albert Chiu. After both U.S. President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping put forth proposals for a two-state resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi traveled to Washington, D.C. to confer with U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, with dialogue reopening between the U.S. and China. Could this have implications for global security and the dynamics in the Taiwan Strait? Joining us today are Yuan I, National Chengchi University Institute of International Relations Adjunct Research Fellow, and Chenlung Kuo, United Daily News Deputy Editor-in-Chief. A very warm welcome to both on the show. Chinese leader Xi Jinping suggested a two-state resolution for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict shortly after President Biden introduced a similar proposal. How is this perceived externally as Biden's most definitive position yet? What advantage might this offer the U.S.? Maybe Yuan Yi, you go first.
I think the issue is one of the most intractable conflict on earth. If I recall, so the issue is not new at all. It's an issue of two peoples, their conflict over the land named Palestine. Each claimed of its own, the piece of this as their own real estate. I think what has been raised again, time and again, about various leaders, including the United States and also China, are not a new one. Rather, it's a repetitive sentence about coping with the most urgent crisis. That is why the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, recently said to the international press, he quoted from Bible. He said, Bible says, there's a time for peace. There's a time for war. Now is the time for war. So I think that what is needed to discuss before any solution is how to stop the fighting.
Even though this issue is not new, the next question goes to Chenlung. We knew that the President Trump, back to when, 4 years ago, he actually pro-Israel completely as opposed to Palestine. So what's your take on, or what's your analysis of President Biden's, this time he kind of goes back to the two-state resolution, kind of in line with President Xi Jinping. What's your interpretation of this?
Actually, the two-state solution started very early as 1993, when President Clinton was helping to broker the Oslo Accord. And at the time, the most important thing is for the Palestinian PLO to recognize the very existence of Israel, and Israel will recognize PLO. And then by that way, they can create two separate but equal states that can coexist together. I think that idea is still the policy of United States government, especially when there's a Democrat in the White House. They are emphasizing the two-state solution a lot. It's true, like you said, Donald Trump is not caring that much about the two-state solution. Rather, when he is in the administration, he supported, first of all, recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel by moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. That is the first one, I think, for every country in the world. I mean, the world recognizes Israel, but they are hesitate to do the things like moving the embassy to Jerusalem. That means it would deny the right of having Palestine to set Jerusalem as their capital. So right. Jerusalem is also a very sensitive issue in the whole two-state solutions. So you can see that now with Biden in office, he's coming back with the old formula, hoping that this can solve the issue once and for all.
We actually sort of see a glimpse of the chance or opportunity for cooperation between the U.S. and China. In fact, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and U.S. Secretary of State Blinken has said that the U.S. the U.S. hopes that Beijing can use its influence on Iran to help prevent the expansion of conflict in the Middle East. We knew that used to be a lot of conflicts and competition between the two great powers in the Middle East. But why this time, the United States seek for help from China to pacify the situation in the Middle East?
With the rising of China, I think China tried to play a heavy hand in this regional conflict not for the first time, but I think they would do it to maximize their power. That is why they dispatched a special envoy, ambassador on the Middle East affairs, ambassador to participate to a Cairo held peace conference recently, and he raised the issue again about seeking for a temporarily first and permanent later as how to coping with this time-honored conflict between the state of Israel and the people of Palestine. And I think that there is a divisions of labor, as you correctly articulated, probably at this moment that the U.S. got his hands full already over the Ukraine crisis. So there's an urgent need for the rising power, in particular at this moment with the forthcoming meeting between Xi Jinping and Biden in San Francisco. So before that, I think the China also would like to, bring about any positive progress that could be over the table for their discussion in 2 weeks of time.
Mm-hmm. So, Chenlung, would you say that the United States does not want to compete with China in winning more friends in the Middle East anymore?
This is a kind of tricky question because I think why the U.S. want to seek China's help is exactly because U.S. had running out of leverage toward Iran. Iran used to have making a deal with the United States in terms of its nuclear agreement, but that was in Obama period. But in the Trump period, Trump had stopped that kind of agreement and leaving the Iran nuclear agreement. And then now with Biden in office, he wants to resume that kind of agreement, but they haven't really settled that up. So the only country who is having a tremendous leverage on Iran will be China, because China recently had a big economic package deal with Iran. So only by Beijing putting the pressure on Iran that can really help the U.S. in the Middle East. What I want to say is that now the U.S. is afraid that besides the Gaza Strip, they may have a second front for Israel. That may happen between the border between Israel and Lebanon, and starting by having an attack by Hezbollah supported by Iran. That kind of warfare is something that both Israel and the United States are afraid of. So by putting the pressure on Iran not to overextend all kinds of fronts is the purpose that U.S. have been trying to ask China's favor. Right?
Well, actually, there's a follow-up question, kind of going back to your points on the party factor within or in the domestic America, is that Democrats, such as President Biden, they really cares, or they're more sympathetic or empathetic with Palestinians, as opposed to Republicans, not to mention Trump, right? Whereas in the issue of Ukraine, maybe Democrats, they also would like to continue to provide support to Ukraine against the Russia's aggression. So, could you say more about this? Different calculation, of the two parties in U.S. politics.
In the ideology of Democratic Party, they used to propose a rainbow coalition, meaning they want to unite all the minorities. That would include the minority coming from the Middle East, the Arab. we are seeing that by this conflict, Biden have been strongly supporting the Israel, that the support rate for Biden among the Arab voters in the United States have dropped from like 66% to 17%. So that is the loss that the Democratic Party will have to measure up. As for another, I think now Biden had proposed over 1,000 billion of military aid to both Ukraine and to Israel. But the Republican in the House want to divide that. I mean, they are against the support going to Ukraine, but they are for supporting Israel.
Right.
So they want to support only the military aid to Israel rather than Ukraine. But Biden saying that this is a whole, you cannot divide it up.
Right.
So you can see the policy difference among them.
Okay, good. Now let's take into account the role of Taiwan. And the question goes to Yuan Yi. Considering the ongoing U.S.-China relations and events ranging from the Russia-Ukraine conflict to the attacks on Israel by Hamas, could the situation in the Taiwan Strait intensify further?
I think to everybody's surprise and also to everybody's dismay, the Hamas recent attack really upset all of us. But I think at this moment, linking this crisis up to the Taiwan Strait will be a little bit far-fetched. All right. So the reasons are as follows: since the U.S. right away, in order to demonstrate its very strong support of Israel, they dispatched the fleet, the Mediterranean fleet, the carrier, the aircraft carrier has been already dispatched to the neighboring waters. So there is a full military capable capacity for the U.S. to coping with that part of a conflict. So for divisions of labor, I think it would take a little bit detour to link up with the crisis. Any potential crisis will be happening in this part of the world. So I would see that would be a time frame for all of us to monitor. I think at this moment, what is urgent for all the parties involved, in particular the United States and China, would be created a ceasefire proposal to stop this crisis from escalating. So stop from any mechanism to safeguard the crisis from escalation will be in place before this will be spilled over to other regions.
Right. Okay. So, Chenlung, would you agree with Yuan Yi in the sense that he does not think there's a spillover effect in terms of the U.S. Continued assistance to Taiwan and to make sure that the situation in Taiwan Strait is still stabilized?
The U.S. had sent in 2 aircraft carrier battle groups to the Mediterranean so far. But those 2 aircraft carrier battle group are the one that is already supposed to be in the Mediterranean. And this is not really affecting the military resources they have in the Indo-Pacific. I think that is one thing. And the second thing is, I think the U.S. is having something that is owing to China for them to help the U.S. to calm down the situation. So there's more cooperation rather than tension between the U.S. and China these days. After all, only 2 weeks from now, they're going to have a summit between Biden and Xi Jinping in San Francisco. So there's more intention for them to cooperate rather than in conflict. But I would say there's still some contention going on, especially in the diplomatic front. I think United Nations is the area where they fight the most. For instance, the U.S. is saying that there should not be any resolution on ceasefire. That there can only be like a pause for humanitarian aid. But while China and other countries are supporting for a ceasefire resolution, that the General Assembly have overwhelmingly more than 140 countries supporting a ceasefire resolution, I think in a way that U.S. is not on the favorite side for getting the global South support in that regard.
Okay, let's shift the gear a little bit, place a full emphasis on Taiwan and also the East Asia. Several factors actually could trigger a U.S.-China conflict in East Asia, even though we just mentioned there might be a consensus reached by both parties. But in this case, one is North Korea's attempts to destabilize the Korean peninsula. Another concern is the issue of Taiwan's autonomy, if not independence. The last is the freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. The tension in East Asia continue even still in the middle of the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So what's your observation regarding China's recent military activity in response to U.S. involvement in East Asia? Yuan Yi?
As I said, the all of a sudden crisis over Palestine was something unintended calculation of all the capital. Therefore, I think the come back with the core elements about the North Korea, about the Taiwan Strait, in particular about South China, actually constitute the most urgent topic that needs to be discussed. That is why the U.S. was so, eager to reinstate it. The summit meeting, it's been on the sideline for too long. That is why I think your concern, I think they reflect the real concern of the two leaders. As we speak, the recent episode over South China Sea was really intense.
Between Philippines and
the Philippines
China.
and the Thomas Islet, and also with involving the two parties. About Taiwan issue, I think since with the forthcoming election of Taiwan in 2 months, I think China would like to take advantage to pay some weights on the U.S.
Okay, what about you, Chenlung? Would you say that now the CCP or the PLA themselves feel that the United States needs them so badly to handle the crisis in Gaza Strip, so that they might, play a little bit more with the Taiwan Strait?
I would continue with what Yuan Yi and you have just said about the South China Seas. I think the party that really both China and the United States should pay more attention is the Philippine government, because just recently, Philippine government has sent out one of the frigate to the territory claimed by China. And China is very concerned about this because with the security alliance between the US and Philippines, any ships or airplane, if being attacked by the PLA, that would be considered attack on the US, and US would have to react.
Right.
If that is true, then there's no more summit. I mean, China so far have not acknowledged that Xi Jinping is going to San Francisco. That is exactly one of the reasons why they are caring so much, because there's some accident may happen before the trip. Right. So they want to delay until the last moment when they have to announce it. Because this summit, if it turn out to be a bad summit, the blaming will be on Xi Jinping and Wang Yi. They would not like to take that responsibility. And the second thing will be on Taiwan, just like you said. That is the concern, I think, would also affect Taiwan's election, because the last thing the US would like to do is exactly just like Philippines. Taipei will not get this summit into a trouble. So they will try to constrain Taipei, or even try to pressure some of the candidates not to announce something that would trigger China's anger. So I think there's an interaction between it going on.
You mentioned the presidential election in Taiwan, which is around the corner in this coming January. What about Biden's calculation? Is it better for him to see a tension between China and U.S. for his own campaign, or do you think that the release of the tension is better for Biden's campaign?
I think what he wants to do is he wants to have a successful summit with Xi Jinping and try to show to the American people he is better to handle that kind of crisis by setting up a military-to-military direct communications, by having China saying that they are going to willing to cooperate with the United States, so on and so forth. But as the time move in to next year's, I think Beijing also realized the American politicians will have to show they are tough on China compared with others. So both Trump and Biden will be showing they are tougher than the other candidate. They can handle the Beijing issue with a forceful way. So only by this consensus being reached during November summit that can survive the relationship that is going to be turning upside down, and then until the new president is being elected. I think both China and the United States and Biden administration have that consensus. You need to have a successful summit to withhold the future changes in the year to come.
But Yuan Yi, as he just mentioned, that Biden kind of has its own calculation, but Taiwan is an inevitable factor there, right? Because next year maybe we will have a new president that's pro-independence. That's gonna make CCP not happy about it, and might be some kind of behavior that's against Taiwan. So how are we able to see the new dynamic between Biden and Xi Jinping? And because on the one hand, China has its own problem in the domestic society, economic depression, and also we see the factional fights within the CCP is still very severe, counter to the argument that Xi Jinping has been very stable in its leadership. A little bit kind of still far away from that. So how would you help us to kind of perceive the two leaders will get along in the next 4 years if Biden gonna be the next president?
At this moment, I think what worries Beijing most is the outgoing president of Republic of China, that is President Tsai. They want to make sure nothing will happen, all right? So they are so worried about anything could happen, not for the next president, but for this outgoing president, the current one. So they really, really want to maximize their opportunity. That is to make sure to get the assurance from the United States, from Biden, that this won't happen.
Okay.
I think there's a missing link. All right. Do not underestimate any possibility. All right. Just like the Hamas surprise attack. All right.
Okay. But the thing is that according to the poll, I think the William Lai is in upper hand, and we know that William Lai he called himself as a pragmatic worker for Taiwan's independence. So how would you see CCP's reaction to his electoral victory, hypothetically, next year?
I think for that remarks, William Lai himself has already remodified many times. All right, and to make sure that he will be under quote unquote control. Okay. So he will be a acceptable, reliable political figure to deal with. I do not believe that United States will have any restriction whatsoever, or anything that is against the democratic nature of this political process. Yet, for that matters, it cannot time will tell. I think after election, I think everybody's sitting in the driver's seat, that the people will figure out the proper manner to deal with one another.
What about you, Chenlung? Would you say that President Biden or even the U.S. federal government as a whole would like to restrain, like what Yuan I said, the current president, President Tsai, or even the next president, if it's going to be William Lai, from making any kind of provocative move against China and not to rock the boat in the Taiwan Strait, to make it easier for Biden to deal with the situation, especially South China Sea. Maybe it's even more urgent than the Taiwan Strait. Right. So what's your observation of this?
I like to see this from another view, saying that China is not really care what's happening within Taiwan. China only cares about how the U.S. is going to react what's happening in Taiwan. If the new president in Taiwan wants to seek an independence approach, as long as the U.S. would not recognize that, there's no way you can getting out of this box. I mean, what China wants to do is try to make sure that the U.S. is strongly against Taiwan independence. That would be satisfactory for Beijing. But if something comes wrong, and then with the competition of U.S. presidential election next year will be very fierce, then that is the concern that China is having.
Okay, Chenlung and Yuan I, thank you for the important opinions in the show. Okay. We've discussed the recent developments in U.S.-China relations, notably the aligned solutions from both nations regarding Palestine state building. We also delve into the potential implications of the Hamas attack on Israel and its potential impact on Taiwan. Enjoying our show? Leave a comment on our YouTube channel and do not forget to subscribe. See you soon.